always live and always wild indeed. Hi everyone, welcome to the Africam Show, brought to you by explore.org. So glad to be with you again to see these wonderful cams and all the animals here out in the African bush. I wish I was out there too. It's me, Trishala, sitting in Cape Town, hoping to see the bush again soon, but luckily we have these wonderful cams. So remember, it's live and interactive, so send through your questions and your comments and let's have fun. We can start off with these lovely kudu, having a bit of a graze. And we have some hellos. Hi from Kelly in Washington State. Hi Kelly, thank you for joining us. I was just saying before we started the show that if I didn't live in Africa, I would just love these cams. I mean, even living in Africa and loving these cams, but at least I have the opportunity to go out and see the bush fairly easily. But if I was living in Washington State, I would certainly love spending time with these cams. Hi Andy. Andy says good afternoon everyone. Good afternoon everyone from Andy. These kudu are really enjoying themselves. Just a couple of females and one little one. Kudu are very, very elegant antelope. I especially love their ears. They remind me of tulips. I know it sounds strange, but the color just reminds me of tulips. So this is Tau in Madikwe. Oh, lovely! Oh! Some zebra coming down. We've also got some helmeted guinea fowl in the grass there. Oh, this is lovely. At least in the time that I've been with you guys looking at these cams, I haven't seen zebra come down. So this is awesome. There's a couple of round bellies. If you look at this, the one in front, it's quite a round belly. It's difficult to tell males and females apart, especially if we're this far away from them. And because of their digestive system, they often hold a lot of gas. It's not very efficient. And so they can look very well fed and in great condition when they have a round belly, but in fact they will always look that way because of their gas. I find it very interesting that the termite mound here is white. That's obviously a result of the soil. It's just something quite striking. You don't notice it, or you don't see it elsewhere too often. Come on, go on, have a drink, zebras. Oh, isn't that lovely? You're getting some beautiful sounds as well. Oh, good morning to you, Michael. Michael Chapman says good morning from Minnesota. Thank you for joining us. We're right on time. We've got a little heron there as well, preening itself. Blacksmith lapwing on the edges. It seems like everyone's having quite a relaxing day in the bush. I've said to you before, I always think about there being, like, how lucky it would be if we got to see a leopard or any predator really come across on the cams, especially at this time of day. Because here in South Africa, it's about almost 4:05, and it's probably quite an intense time, both in terms of the sun and the heat. Even though we are approaching winter, the middle of the day can still get pretty hot. And so you won't see predators around, but you get these wonderful scenes, combination of birds, different sized herbivores. It's really, really special. And this is probably one of the best time of days to go bird watching, because you'll see them bathing, coming down to have a drink. I kind of ignored our little, well, he's not very little, but the Impala ram that's behind the zebra. It looked like he was roaring. That is a term we sometimes use for the sound that Impala rams make um, during the mating season, or the rut. Looked like he was doing it earlier. Oh, there we go. There we go. A bit of a chase. There he goes. You can see he throws his head back as he's chasing this female, and you'll see his lips open up, and he does what to me sounds like aggressive burping. While I wish I could give you a demonstration, it would be very poor compared to what it is in reality. Hi, Fauzi. You say this is so pretty. Yeah, it really, really is. OMG 23. You say good day to Shala. A good day to you too. One of these zebras, if you just have a look, that one right there, is scraping against the soil. Now it's quite likely that the soil is this color because of its mineral composition, particularly salts. And many animals will supplement their diet in an area like this by chewing on some salt. Or well, chewing on some soil that contains salt. Hi, John F. Linda. Thanks for joining us. You are asking what the weather is at the moment. So here in Madikwe, it's 21 degrees Celsius, 69 degrees Fahrenheit. Believe me, in the sun, it would feel much warmer than that. But in the shade, it'll feel very much like 21. Oh, this is nice. I really don't think about zebras very much. And every time I see them, I realize how beautiful they are and how much I actually enjoy spending time with zebras. They can be very entertaining. Look at that. A bit of affection. They can also be quite aggressive. Males have incisors that can become quite sharp, essentially canines, and they'll use that to attack one another. And I've seen that happen before, and it's brutal. I've seen the flesh of one zebra in a fight with another male. The flesh around the abdomen just being pulled out and just kind of hanging as they were running around. Very, very brutal. I guess in the right situations, every animal has that potential. Hi, Kat. You'd like to know why is a zebra eating the bank? I did see that. So it's not, well, yes, I understand what you're saying. You're talking about the sand. So this kind of sand, because you can see, look at the termite mound, it's really white. So when soil or sand has this color, it's usually a result of its mineral composition. So there's a lot of, oh, bit of action, bit of action. So Kat, that lots of things like salt, obviously. So sodium, you'll find things like potassium and other minerals in that soil. So many animals, particularly herbivores, will go to areas like this, also even salt licks, to supplement their diet. They don't eat it sufficiently for it to damage their digestive systems, though. They'll just kind of chew it because salts are dissolving quite easily in the saliva of animals. So there's no need really to consume it. So not very much actually gets into their digestive system. Oh, this is lovely. We've got some kudu, impala, and zebra all down here. I'm loving the green of the um this sort of hillside. That's the backdrop for this magnificent view. When I think of the African bush, that's what I think about. These woody shrubs. They're quite dense. It reminds me of where I grew up in KZN. That's on the east coast of South Africa. We have lots of dense bush like this and very few. Oh, it's a lilac-breasted roller. Took away my sentence. This is stunning. Look at those colors. What a stunning, stunning shot. We're always debating how many colors can we see in a lilac-breasted roller or on a lilac-breasted roller. And the general consensus is about 7. But every now and then I see some different shades. So obviously there's the lilac breast that we see. There's the white, the black. There's the green around the head. There's this kind of burnt orange kind of almost brick color on its back and wings. And then there's the red that's under the eyes, or the eye stripe. And then there's the kind of teal blue, and then there's the dark blue. And I think that there's other shades as well that are kind of in the mix. Oh, this is beautiful. Oh, we have a little skink that went by on the bottom right of the screen too. Now, when we're out in the bush in person, it feels like every time I want to put a bird on camera, it has to happen so quickly because it's almost like they know and they'll fly away. But having a cam like this means that we can really observe all the lovely details that birds can offer us. And you can see all these flying insects. Oh, looking directly at us, everybody. Stay calm. Luckily for us, we are not the right size or type of prey they're after. Although I did once dress up as a spider for Halloween. Still not the right size though. You can also get an idea of, if you look just under the beak, there's a lot of little hairs that are standing out. And yes, the hairs around birds' heads are, the feathers, sorry, around birds' heads are usually very short, which results in them standing up quite frequently. But the hairs underneath its beak, which is a lot more prominent in other species, like flycatchers, those hairs are actually quite sensitive. So it can allow the animal, or the bird rather, to be able to detect the movement of its prey quite well. So there's lots of little cues apart from the things that we think of as the primary senses when it comes to hunting. Things like sight and sound. There's also these much more kind of refined senses, very subtle, like the feathers that are sensitive at the bottom of the beak. Hey, Rolling Trouble, you say stunning. It really is. Look at that. Hi, Gigi. You'd like to know, what do these birds eat? So these are lilac-breasted rollers, and they really enjoy insects. You'll often see them on the ground, especially near roads, picking off insects. It's a lot easier to see insects when you're on the road, I mean, if you were a bird, and that's because there's no bush above you. And so you don't have to accommodate for differences in light and for differences in cover. So it can be quite easy to hunt on the road because the sky is quite plain. My favorite color. Oh, there was one other thing I want to tell you about that before we move on to the color. and that is that birds actually can accommodate for polarized light. So polarized light is light that is focused in one direction. And when it's focused in one direction, for us it can look like really shiny. Think about when you're looking at cars and the sun is shining on those cars, and then that light is bouncing back onto your eyes, and it can be quite harsh. And so birds can accommodate from that for that polarized light, and they can see differences in polarized light, where for us it just looks, like it just looks washed out. And by being able to see that polarized light, they're able to either avoid it or sometimes even use it to their advantage. Oh, look at those two wire tail feathers. Stunning. Lynn, I have to agree with you. Absolutely beautiful and majestic. It looks very thoughtful sitting here. Lilac-breasted. Ooh, 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 ooh. Oh, wasn't that special? Wasn't that so special? I thought it was going to take off, but it was just posing for us. Lilac-breasted rollers are one of those birds that don't show a whole lot of sexual dimorphism. That is, they don't show a whole lot of difference in the way that either males or females look. And that's interesting because so much of bird evolution has moved towards males having to look quite extravagant in order to attract females. Call that sexual selection. But in this case, both males and females are very brightly colored. Why? It could be that they were just not selected, that those colors were just not selected against for females. Either way, I'm very glad that they look this way, because it gives us this beautiful view. It looks like it's perched on a leadwood. Oh, stunning. Well, we're going to move on to the Olifants River. And leave this guy to hunt. Or gal, not sure. Oh, I love starting off in that pathway, always expecting something to be walking through to greet us. Well, there's a great example of polarized light. Very bright, we can't tell what's happening within that band. So what do we have here? Is it a log? Is it a little shadow? Got ridged back. It's a crocodile, everybody. Fantastic. Oh, fantastic. It doesn't look very, very large. Oh, this is great. I do love crocodiles. Um, I really need to stop saying that because I love all the stuff. I very much appreciate crocodiles, but that way. They're overlooked as an apex predator so much of the time. And that's because of their lifestyle. They're in the water and they're in fresh water, so you're not comparing crocodiles to great white sharks, for example. So we don't often think of them as these apex predators, but in fact they are. Anything that comes to the water, near the water, gets into the water, has the potential to die at the teeth of croc. Quite mighty. And with that scaly skin, they certainly do look prehistoric. But we'll get into that in a moment. Paulie has a question. You'd like to know if crocs can hunt on land? They can get out of land or get out of the water onto land, and they can be quite agile and quite quick when they need to be. Remember that all animals are opportunistic, particularly predators. And crocodiles are ambush predators. So imagine that you're a crocodile and you are lying on the bank of the Olifants River, for example. Not half in the water like this, but quite on the bank, on the land. And you're sitting still and something comes along, close enough for you to grab it. It certainly will. But the next thing it would do is to drag it into the water. And that's because that's its territory, that's its home, that's where it's most comfortable. And that's where it's most likely not to lose what it's caught. So it would drag it into the water. And crocs are not always in the water. You'll often see them basking like this, and also when water levels go down, which we will see around winter, you'll find that they'll move around. So may move from one waterhole to another. I remember seeing crocodiles in areas that you really didn't expect to see them. And that's because they have to be able to move in order to find, again, that comfortable space of theirs, which is the water. And when they're making that move, they're going to need to eat as well. But back to talking about why I said that they look quite prehistoric, and I said that we'll get into that in a moment. And that's because there's often this myth that crocodiles are these living fossils. And there is certainly not. A lot of evolutionary change has happened in crocodiles over the past millions of years. And the reason that we often think that they have this appearance of being a living fossil, and it's something that's this idea is something that's quite prevalent, and that's because crocodiliforms, which is the broader group of what we now call crocodiles, or what this is, which is a crocodile, crocodiliforms have existed for about 250 million years. But this particular family, crocodilians, which a Nile crocodile fits into, has only existed for about 80 million years. I say only as if that's not very long on its own, and it certainly is. But it's not as long as 250 million years. And there have been some crazy types of croc. In fact, Paulie, back to your question about whether crocs hunt on land, have been some prehistoric crocodiliforms that did hunt on land. There were some really, really strange ones. There was ones that looked like armadillos. I'm gonna get this name wrong, but I think it's Armadillosuchus or something similar. No, I'm not even gonna try. I can't remember their names. But there were these crocodiliforms that had armored skin, much like an armadillo. So it could actually move with its body. And with crocodiles today, we see what's called osteoderm. So that's what creates these kind of really tough cuticles on the skin. But obviously, the armadillo type croc took it a little bit further. And there was also a croc called a dog-like crocodiliform because it had like a soft snout, and there was a rat type because it had these buck type of teeth. And Paulie, there was even one that hunted on land. And even within the different types of crocodiles, there were crocodiles that would hunt each other. So just because you're a crocodile doesn't mean you're on top of the croc food chain. And there were some that would drag dinosaurs in from the edges of waters. Of course, this is what we think would have happened. I was not there. So there were some quite crazy looking crocs. There's even one that was it was called a boar-like crocodile, and that's because they had these long tusk-like teeth. And that would primarily hunt on land. So by saying that they're living fossils, we're kind of taking away all that diversity that happened between 250 million years to now. So these guys are really quite modern compared to their dog-like, cat-like, rat-like boar-like, armadillo-like ancestors. Oh, they're such interesting creatures. I was reading recently about crocodile tears. Obviously, that's something like a phrase that we hear quite often when somebody cries and doesn't mean it. And in fact, crocodiles do have tears, um, but not in the same way that we do. So they have these, they only blink maybe once every 2 hours, where for a human, you've got to blink, I think, about 15 times per minute in order to keep your eyeballs nice and moist so they can move around in your socket without any problems. Or rather, move your eyelid around without any problems. And because crocodiles and crocodilians live in water, they'd have to do a lot of work to keep that tear duct going. And then certainly they would look like they were crying quite a lot. But instead, they have a tear film, which is very, very stable. And it's basically stable because it contains some proteins and mucus. And they don't produce new tears in the same sense that we do. Instead, so our tear duct would drain out tears, right? And then we'd produce new ones once we needed to. So crocs don't do that. So in that sense, it's not a true tear, but they have to push out the film again. And they do that when they exhale. So they exhale and put so much pressure um, moving towards the eyes that they can push out the film, and it gets moist again, and then it comes back onto the eye securely. I know it sounds very strange when I'm describing it, but these are happening in very, very, very minuscule movements. It's not like if you watch a croc very closely, you're going to see its eyes pop out when it exhales or anything like that. Oh, almost a bit of movement. But it is really interesting because that stabilizes their essentially tears, and that can have a lot of good implications for medicine. Anyway, I realized I've been talking about this croc for quite a long time. So how about we go over to have a look at the black eagles, because I want to see what progress we've had on that front. It's only been a couple days since we've seen them previously. Oh, there we go. Oh, I love seeing them. So, what was the date that was predicted for them? I think it was the end of this month, where we can hopefully see some babies. Always one parent around, isn't that nice? Okay, so we predicted the 27th or the 28th. Nice. Such robust beaks. I love it. I wonder if you guys have ever seen a kill on this cam, or them bring back a kill, or one partner bring back a kill rather. That would have been quite interesting. Wow! Wow! Oh, this is so special. It almost looks like they can see us, huh? Oh, what a privilege. Now, I wonder if you'll be able to tell who's male and who's female. So I felt that this one that's here now, that this was slightly smaller, and so the male Verreaux's eagles are smaller than the females. Females weigh about over 4 kgs, and males are more around 3.5. Oh, it's actually quite easy to identify because this one has the white specks on the head. So I think this might be Mashlori male. Oh, and settling down. Yes, you take care of those eggs. Yes, you do, and then we'll see you in a couple weeks' time to introduce your little ones to a wider audience out there in the world that has this wonderful privilege of being able to watch these beautiful animals through the eyes of our cams. And with that sentiment, I'd like to say thank you all for joining me. I know I did talk a lot about the croc. I felt like I spoke quite a lot actually, in general. But I hope that you learned something interesting, and I will see you again soon. Thanks for joining, everybody. Bye for now.